I'll very quickly introduce you to Mr. Manish Naidu, who's the founder of Brain Wonders. Uh, he's a very, very well-known personality, again from the coming from the education space, catering to students and their, skill needs for well over a decade in the education space. Based out of Mumbai, he runs a wonderful organization called Brain Wonders. They are into DMIT, where they do, psychometric assessments and multiple intelligence tests. Manish, sir, why don't you introduce yourself here? I think you're on mute, sir.
Yeah, I'm just trying to figure out because I'm on the thing. Uh, can you see my video?
Not yet.
Not yet, sir.
Sorry, I'm just outside a gate of a school in Bombay, so I'm running late. So hi, thanks Sandeep for the wonderful introduction and welcoming Q&I Akash Gautam. I think it's been a wonderful.
So you are on mute. I think somehow it went mute.
Yeah, now it's proper, I think.
Yeah, it is.
Wonderful. So thanks, Sandeep, for the introduction. Welcome, Akash. Q&I feel is going to bridge the huge gap between what the industry needs are and what is coming out of the school. I think there's a huge segment, and that's a very good blue ocean theory, which people I think are trying to work on. I think Q&I with its unique propensity with the leaders who are trying to make a difference will definitely do something or the other. So, kindly let us know your pathway and the way ahead and what you feel about it. And are we waiting for somebody else, or should we be starting in Sandeep ji?
So we are waiting for all the participants. In fact, we've just joined by two. We have a total strength of 10 people, including yourself.
Okay.
So we just take another 2-3 minutes more. So
Not an issue. Not an issue. Not so. To preserve the battery, I'll just keep the mobile's video off, and I'll connect after 2 minutes. Yeah.
Yeah, sure, sir.
Sure.
Okay.
Sure, sir.
So welcoming Shweta Balakrishnan ma'am, who's the correspondent of Excel MHSS. Welcome, ma'am, for joining.
Welcome, sir.
the session.
Thank you. Thank you.
I would also request Shabana ma'am to, if you can turn on your camera.
Oh, would like to. Hi, hello, sir.
Oh, hello, ma'am.
Hello.
I think let's start the session, and as and when people will keep on joining, we'll have them introduced and we'll incorporate them on this amazing panel. So a very warm welcome to all you wonderful educators out here. This is the second episode of Q&I presents the TalkEd Talking Education series with one of the most amazing and interesting topics to be covered. We are talking about addressing the skill gap, preparing students for the workforce of tomorrow. Uh, to start off the session, I would first of all invite our special guest, Mr. Manish Naidu, who is the founder of Brain Wonders. I'll introduce everybody first who are there. Mr. Akash Gautama, who's the academic head of QNI. Mr. Anurag Chandra,
Hello.
who's the product head from QNI. We
Oh,
also have
very-
been joined by Ms. Sabana Parvinar, who's the principal of Avanya Public School. We are also joined by Ms. Shweta Balakrishnan, who's the secretary, Excel Metric HR Secondary School. We are awaiting, the presence of Mr. S.A. Balakrishnan, correspondent Excel MHSS, A.G. Prakash, principal, Nanda Central City School, Mr. Siva Kumar Bellam, who's the principal of Cambridge Public E-School. We are also waiting our Ms. R. Anita, who's the CEO of Swayam Kids Preschool. And last but not the least, Mr. V. Venkateswaran, who's the principal of the Ideal Mount Litra Z School as well. They're all running a little behind, maybe some last minute hookup that they're having. So let us start. It's an honor basically whenever our first speaker comes in all our conferences. Mr. Manish Naidu, being a great friend to the Universal Mentors Association, has been guiding us throughout. And, one of the most renowned personalities in the education industry today, runs a really, really unique product out there. And this topic basically, if anybody could do justice to this amazing topic, it's Mr. Manish Naidu who would be, doing justice to this topic. So Manish, all up to you. We're talking about addressing the skill gap, preparing students for the workforce of tomorrow. And I think you have dedicated your life to make sure that the students are, bridging their skill gaps through your solutions as well.
Thanks, Sandeep. Thanks for introducing all of us. Good afternoon, panelists. I'm sure Anurag would, as a product head, will have a lot more to share. And I always love product guys. Shabana ma'am and Shweta Balakrishnan ma'am, welcome both. Okay, it's a nice South Indian touch to the whole alignment, which makes it work much more better. And coming back to the bridge between skill gap and what the industry needs, I think it is the pain of almost everybody. Um, the school the school teachers and the school principals and the authorities feel that students coming out of preschool are not all that great. The college has a similar ruse to say with the school. They say the people coming out from the schools are not great, and ultimately uh, the students coming out of the colleges are not being addressed as workable workforce by the corporates. So the interesting question out here, Akash, is, and Anurag, to both of you before you move ahead, is that where would you start the skill gap bridging? Would it be at the 7th, 8th, 9th standard levels? So basically, I run a product which is genetic intelligence test, where we identify the child's innate potential and then map it along with the skills. So a lot of vocational, non-vocational courses, skills are also being developed in. So we find that any early intervention at an early stage obviously helps it. I think your target audience, obviously, when you speak about it, would be more of from the college level or from the um, graduation or the post graduation level. But I would want to have an intake about what the company is all about, and how are you planning to make a difference where there are few players already into the industry who are trying to make a difference by doing some sort of an industry collaboration into it. So how does QI with Anurag and Akash, how are you planning to make a difference, and why should the schools be in a position to take whatever you have to offer? So over to you and over to Sandeep. I will listen it across and I'll join you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Over to you, Akash. Maybe, yeah.
Yeah.
So Akash, would you like to?
Yeah. So, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Akash Gautama, and I graduated from IIT Kanpur, and I have been in academics for the past 13 years. I've been training students for the prestigious JEE examinations, and in the last 13 years, I have taught thousands and thousands of students, and I have been instrumental and helpful in helping a lot of students not just qualify the examination, but also qualify it. Many of them have secured ranks under 100 and under 10 as well. Right. So before coming to the question which Mr. Naidu asked, I would like to introduce a little bit about who we are and what is it that we do. So before diving into the topic of discussion and the question, we basically are Thomson Digital. The company is Thomson Digital, and it is by the promoters of India Today Group. We are a company having a rich legacy of more than 5 decades in the field of education. We have been providing content and technology solutions to the scientific, technical, medical, school and higher education community across the globe. So in the process, over the last 5 decades, we feared that, and we identified that there are some very challenging problems that the students in our country are facing, especially the ones who are aspiring for, engineering and medical entrance examinations. So identifying those challenges, we have tried to come up with a solution, a learning solution in form of Q&I, which basically provides a personalized learning approach, especially for the students who are, in their class 11th and class 12th, helping them not just to excel in their board examination, but also in the field of engineering and medical entrance examinations. The solution that we bring basically works in collaboration with schools by complementing them and not competing with them. So the learning solution that we have in form of Q&I, using this, we basically empower the schools and the teachers by technology solutions, having AI and ML as its backbone, and help them provide personalized learning recommendations. So this is just a brief, about who we are and what we do, what is a little bit of a bio about what Q&I is. Now, coming back to the question raised by Mr. Naidu, that where exactly we start, to fill this learning gaps and the skill gaps that the students have. And it is a long cycle that Mr. Naidu already explained, that it starts with school, and then colleges said that the students are not good from the schools. Then Students coming out of colleges, corporates say that the students from colleges are not coming out good. So the question itself has an answer in front. So the skill gap, which is being developing over the entire education journey of the students, starts right there from when the students are in their schools. And if we can, address those gaps then and there itself, then obviously the whole cycle and the whole chain, breaks. Now, coming to the solutions or the ways in which we can, try to gap those challenges and the skill gaps that the students are having, there could be multiple ways, right? And in this forum, in this discussion, probably we will be highlighting a lot of content and discussion around how exactly we are going to come up with solutions to bridge this gap. So the disparity between the skills possessed by job seekers and those demanded by employers definitely has a pressing issue, or has emerged as a pressing issue. But the root cause lies somewhere way before the students get into colleges and then ultimately start seeking for jobs in the corporate sector. Now, these skills could be, when we talk about skills at the school level, right? The basic skills through which the student consume knowledge, if those could be addressed, and then ultimately some skills through which they will be able to use this knowledge in their overall development, in their overall professional life, is also something that needs to be developed. And this is somehow we are trying to address this through the solution that we have made, and we will definitely be talking about it in the process of this entire discussion and the webinar that we have. But till now, for now, I'm basically handing it over to Sandeep to do involve other speakers and dignitaries that we have here into the discussion.
Sure. While we are still waiting for the people to join in, I would request, Shabana Parvinar ma'am, if you could give your opening remarks on the topic that we are talking about today.
Sir, let me join later to find slide. Can join.
Sure, ma'am. Why don't can we have Shweta Balakrishnan, ma'am, to give your opening remarks?
Hello, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you, Sandeep sir, for giving an opportunity. And I think this topic is really, because I think the last webinar which I have attended was about the NEP 2020, and now another burning issue is that skill gap, how to address the skill gap. And let me start with the statistics, like why we are discussing this now. Because globally, we have 22.5% of the youth population who are not meeting the skills, that needs to be employed. But if you take India, so in India, we have women and men population both combined, it nearly comes to 48.5% of the population. And that means the youth population who has the skill gap and are yet to be employed. And the skill gap manifests in many forms. Like, for example, there are people who are overeducated. And if you have seen in the news recently in Kerala, so we have PhD candidates, those who have completed the PhD. Now, because they are overeducated and they are not able to find the jobs up to their qualification, they are employed as conservancy workers in the municipal corporation. So it's a big shock to me, actually. So PhD candidates being employed as such. And if you see, there are employers, on the other hand, that they are forced to hire the candidates who are undercompetent And in this way, they are also losing out on the losing out on the dynamics of the corporates, and they're losing out on their growth statistics also when you are hiring the under competent people. So addressing the skill gap, and that should start from the schools and as well as the higher education institutions and vocational training institutes at whatever level. It's very crucial because it has an impact on both the business environment as well as the society as well. For example, if the youth coming out of the colleges are not able to find the jobs, then they directly turn to other forms of means, like for example, terrorism or radicalization. If they don't have any jobs to fend for themselves, then they don't turn to the other forms of radicalization. And second thing, the businesses. So if they are not able to hire require talent for them, so most probably they would either close down or they shift out of the other countries. So I think it's a right time and apt time to address this issue, and I'm also looking forward to the other speakers, and I'm here to gather insights on what the other speakers are going to say. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your input, ma'am. In fact, I have a very, very interesting question before I move on to take the opening remarks of anybody else. I believe, engineering and medicine are basically, these are the two sectors that employ, the largest number of students. So how do you, how schools as yourselves are facing, how are you facing this challenge of addressing the demands from the school, from the students who aspire careers in engineering and medicine? It's a very particular
Yes.
question that I've asked.
Sandeep sir, actually the trend that we are observing in most of the schools is after the introduction of the competitive examinations like NEET and JEE, most of the students now are preferring to take commerce or any other vocational courses rather than science group, because as far as we have conducted surveys and took student feedback, they are finding it very difficult, to cope with both the higher secondary, well, that means the 11th standard and 12th standard, as well as the NEET and JEE course. And if you have seen the question papers, only the physics and the chemistry part of the NEET and as well as the JEE are different from what we have in other syllabus. Though it is CBSE or matriculation or any other syllabus, whatever questions that they ask from NEET and JEE is actually up to the degree level. So they need separate coaching for the physics and chemistry. So for this thing itself, for this, they have to have this double effort, like they have to concentrate on the 11th and 12th as well as the NEET and JEE. Many people are shying away from this medicine and engineering and taking forward to. So actually, those students who have the ambition to become doctor or, engineer from 6, 7, 8, they usually drop off when they come to, choosing the groups after 10th standard. So this is the challenge that we are facing. First of all, we don't even have enough number of candidates for science stream. And second thing is availability of the teaching and faculty resources. So we don't have trained faculty for NEET and JEE. So to enable the students to crack NEET and JEE, we must have some, candidates who have cracked JEE or NEET. But we are facing on this shortage of the teaching and suitable training resource faculty, sir. So these are the challenges that I'm facing in my school.
I think the right person to answer all of this, Anurag sir, I'll come down to you. Since you've heard firsthand from an educator that these are the challenges that they're facing, where the trainings are a problem. Students wants to go away, and when they want to prepare for JEE NEET, they either would prefer coaching instead of going to a classroom in a school. Right. Or they are a little bit now more getting afraid of joining the science stream per se altogether. So being a product or a service that is directly catering to JEE NEET and basically the science part, how QNI is helping schools, or how or what is the distinguishing feature from QNI that can help schools adopt and make sure that the students are choosing science and the teacher trainings and everything is falling in place?
For sure.
Anurag ji, over to you.
Sure. So as Shweta ma'am also rightly pointed out, and this is a phenomenon that we have observed in the course of our market research for the product that we have done, is that students tend to change the stream. They have been moving to other streams, despite the fact that STEM careers offer a very lucrative career option. A career in engineering, medicine, science is very lucrative. Yet there are a number of students who are dropping out post class 10. As ma'am also said, in 6th and 7th, they are focused on becoming engineers and doctors, but by the time they reach class 10, they either have to opt for a coaching institute. The amount of money that they have to spend is a lot. So all these factors, middle class students, they are not able to cope up with all these pressures and ultimately have to back out. Now, another phenomenon, I'm not too sure how many of you would agree with me or not, but I see that a lot in the western parts of India, as well as in the northern parts, is that post class 10, a lot of students also have to opt for dummy schools. They have to, when they agree to participate in these competitive examinations. Now, this is a very strange phenomenon. You have spent a lot of years right from your childhood in a school, in a guarded environment, but for the 2 years of your life, which are most precious, you choose to go in a dummy school. So there is this gap that needs to be filled. And that is where we felt as QNI, as a technology-enabled solution, to come in and pitch for the schools. So what we want to do here is, we don't want to become a competition, become another coaching institute that tries to grab the students. We want to support the schools themselves. So there are schools that are actually committed to the students, right? Now, students facing cognitive load because they have, on one hand, they have higher secondary examinations to prepare for. On the other, there is a coaching institute that they have to go to. We want to remove this parallel structure of education that has cropped. We want the students to learn at school and use that conceptual knowledge to come on a platform that's technology driven, to practice and to assess where they are in terms of their preparation, both for the board examinations as well as for any of the competitive examinations that they want to opt for, at a fraction of the price that's available, because financial reasons are also very important. So technology plays a part there. What we do is, we take into account anything that they practice on the platform, gauge their learning level, and provide the feedback and recommendation to the teachers, back to the teachers at school, so that they can take corrective remedial actions. And that way a collaboration happens between our platform and the schools to benefit the students and get the desired success that they are aiming for. So that is where we are trying to bridge the gap.
And just to adding what Anurag has already added, a few points that ma'am highlighted about the academic requirements and the trained faculties which are not available somehow, to the expertise that is required for these examinations. And for that also, we are having a solution just to supplement the school structure and to provide them with these solutions as well, so that the school is fully equipped now to not just address the student challenges for their boards and higher secondary examinations, but also be equally prepared for taking examinations like JEE and NEET. So this is what the entire solution that we have worked on is actually, and that is how the entire solution works. So yes.
Very well said, sir. And I believe, ma'am, you are now assured that there is somebody who is actually addressing the issues that the schools are facing. Now, I would like to welcome Mr. A.G. Prakash, who's the principal of Nanda Central City School. Let me introduce them first. Thank you for joining in, sir. And we have Mr. Senthil, who's the principal of TI Matriculation Higher Secondary School. Thank you so much for joining in, sir. To start off with, sir, I would like to have your opening remarks, Prakash, sir, on the topic where we are addressing the skill gap, preparing students for the workforce for tomorrow. And if you would like to add any of the points that you've been listening to the discussion.
Fine, sir. Good evening to all of you. I'm sorry that I was affected with a fever. That's the reason I was not able to join on time. I'm sorry for that. Actually, the question that is asked is their skill gap. I still remember. I think all of you may be remembering that particular incident. That 4 children were there inside Amazon forest for nearly 40 days. And during that time, what we have noticed is, the students' capability to adjust with the situations. For example, when that particular incident happened, when the single engine operated flight was there passing across Amazon forest, suddenly it was there falling down. And during that time, entire 40 days, we may have seen the eldest child, that means at the age of 13, and the other is 9 year, and the other is 4 year, and a small 11-month in fact. They were able to survive inside the forest because they were taught a particular skill for survival. That means an indigenous community, a Hutoto, that was the tribal community in which they were belonging to. They were taught how to survive in that particular situation. If those students were there, those children were there not about these kinds of life skills, they would not have survived. So that is the learning outcome that we are getting. And we need to connect that with, national education policy. I used to think in that way because the day-to-day incidents which are happening, definitely a few provisions which are there given in ECC, that means early childhood care education, that has to be incorporated. 21st century skills, we used to say. We speak a lot about 21st century skills, but in fact, whether we are actually teaching the 21st century skills to the students is a question mark. 21st century skills doesn't mean that the child should be taught only coding, or the child should only be there getting digital education alone. The life skills should be there taught. That is the question that you have asked, I hope, that the skill gap. A student who has completed his engineering graduate in electrical engineering, who is not able to repair a switch at home, there is no meaning in getting that education. So Gandhian principle is also the same. Mahatma Gandhi was telling a skill and education which is not giving an employability to the particular child is a waste education. And once Mahatma Gandhi, after his roundtable conference, in one of the meetings, one journalist asked him a question. Sir, you are Mahatma, and if you are appointed, you are appointed as the Viceroy in India, what will be the first thing that you will do? That was the question. Then the answer that he was telling was, the first thing, if I am appointed as a Viceroy in India, the first thing that I will do is, I will wash my washroom. That is the skill that he is there telling. That means, that I have learned about Japanese culture, where which the servants are there not being used for day-to-day practices and all. Skill education, I think it is still there in the zero level in India. This is what I can come to a conclusion. The gap between the outcome of the education and the real practice. I remember, that in one of the sessions, one parent was asking me a question. It was a parental orientation that I was giving to the parents of my school. And the parent was asking, sir, in your school, there is a subject called work education. And I know that work education has been implemented in the school right from class 1. And you are teaching my child how to prepare coffee, how to prepare tea and all. And he knows how to prepare bread and all. You are telling, and you are giving the mark of A+ to my son for work education subject. But recently, my husband was there laid up with fever, but I was not there at home. Even my son was not able to make at least a cup of tea for my husband. So what is the meaning of teaching work education at a school? So skill education, what I say is, it is not to be taught, it should be brought. It should not be there simply made as a subject. So if you go to CBSE website, cbse.nic.in or academic, you can find large areas of skill-based subjects. And these are being considered as just subjects, and they are being taught in that way. And it is also they considered for assessing the child, assessment and all. So it should not be skill-based subject should not be considered as a subject, but it should be taken as a way of life. It is part of life. In that case, definitely the gap between the skill and education can be filled, I hope. This is
Thank you. Thank you so much for your wonderful input, sir. And I really agree with you on a lot of things. Implementation of anything has been a pain point for our education sector per se. So again, before I move on to Senthil, sir, I would like to go back to Akash Gautamji. Sir, how are you addressing the implementation issue that schools face when they're teaching or the STEM education or any kind of an upskilling that they are trying to do?
Yeah. So there are few questions already hidden inside this one question, that how are we basically coming up with solution that schools do feel that they feel challenged, right? So coming back to one of the aspects in terms of the aspirations that students of today's are having, like many of the students, the data itself, substantiates that 20 lakh students appearing for NEET, 12 lakh students appearing for JEE, but so that this itself shows that there is a substantial amount of students who are actually aspiring towards careers in engineering and medicine. Now, to address this as a problem, so what we or the product that we have made, the Q&I, through the Q&I part, we are trying to overcome a lot of things. One of the primary objective of coming up with a solution like Q&I is to provide personalized learning experience to each and every child. See, if we see these examinations in a broader perspective, these are sort of rejection examinations, right? You have to make sure that you have to do everything in your capability as a student to make sure that you are not rejected in any of these examinations. And one of the important part, which comes out from it is to identify the mistakes that you are doing. If as a student, if you are able to identify the mistakes, then you'll have an opportunity to correct those mistakes and take remedial actions to overcome the challenges that you are facing. So this is where our product basically gives a very detailed and granular analytics to the students through the assessments, because the product itself is based, the learning solution that we have made is based on assessment-led learning. And through assessments, we do get a lot of insights, a lot of data is generated. Students engage on the platform in form of custom practice sessions, assessments, and then mock tests, and previous year questions that they will be able to do. And through all these activities, all the analytics that is generated basically tries to highlight all those gaps, learning gaps, skill gaps, learning skill gaps, strategic skill gaps. These all gaps are highlighted. And once they are highlighted in front of the students, it is very easy for the student to, start working on it. And not just for the student, for the tutors as well. If they also get to know that where exactly their students are actually facing difficulty in, then it also becomes, easier
for them to implement.
And the educator to come up with solutions which will basically work for that one particular child. So having a personalized learning experience, highlighting all the learning gaps and skill gaps that you are having as a student, and then working on those gaps and challenges through a proper remedial action and intervention, then basically empowers the student to be able to stand and compete with anyone out there who is competing for these examinations. So this is one part of it.
One of the things that, so one of the things, Sandeep, so as Prakash sir was talking about, is in India, we still consider skill-based learning as a subject and not as a way of life.
Correct.
Now that change can be brought about only if innovation is brought about in the way we are imparting education in the school system. That will not happen until and unless we still follow the age-old way of rote learning, the periodic tests, homework, and all the mechanisms. If they are still there, then the teachers don't get the time to actually innovate in the way they should be imparting education and bring about the changes that in theory are being prescribed through these policies that are being put forward now. So one of the things that probably is required, that the schools and the teachers must look at options where they can offload some bits of the work, the mundane work, as I might say, or gathering of the feedback, etc., for each of the students, as Akash was also pointing out. If there is a mechanism through which you are able to identify the the shortcomings, the weak areas, the strengths of each child. If there is a report, a short summary report that's already available to you, I think that makes your job a lot easier. And then you can utilize the time that you have saved in generating these questions, the practice assessments and all these things, and understanding each student. If you have that data, then probably you can innovate in the way you want to teach in the class and probably bring about these changes that are required.
Very, very well said, Anuragji. Now I would like to open Mr. Senthil. Sir, thank you for joining us. Your opening remarks. What do you think about, addressing the skill gap? How are you addressing the skill gap in your schools?
Yeah. Good afternoon, Sandeep, for this wonderful opportunity. I'm sorry I joined a little late because I had another, meeting which is actually not been planned, but it had come and I had to give an importance for it. So thank you very much for accepting and allowing me to be a part of this particular webinar. See, I would like to respond to one or two reflexes of the people over here. So in terms of it comes to my mind, kind of thought where I would say that sir was talking about the kind of skilling of the children and perhaps empowering the teachers. So after the pandemic, if you look at after the pandemic, irrespective of these challenges of preparing children for competitive examination, and of course concentrating on skilling, especially with respect to the gap left behind by the pandemic, the very important thing is all the institutions have been brought down to the telling mode. So if you look at the people who are at the helm of affairs, be it the head of the institution or the vice principal or the section heads or HODs, so each institution will have its own organogram and structure. And most of the institutions would have gone up till like a delegation mode, expecting the people to be on their own and discharging their duties, and they'll become accountable and responsible. See, all those jargons after the pandemic, irrespective of all this preparing children for competitive examination skilling, I in fact honestly feel that skilling of teacher is almost essential. Perhaps the second would be skilling of children. So from telling mode, all of us have been brought to the telling mode, to selling mode, to participating mode, to delegating mode, irrespective of the strength of the organization, because the task of certain organization, because our institution almost stepping into 45th year, the complexity of the task that we have is too high because we have brought in so many initiatives into the organization. Apart from the program that we have for scaling up the intelligent quotient of the children, we in fact brought in a lot of activities for social quotient, emotional quotient, and perhaps after the pandemic a realization that we need to bring in adversity quotient, program for adversity quotient, resilience for the children as a part of value education class. So beyond all this, now if you look at the capability of the teaching team, of course, their maturity level has gone up. In our institution, the teacher turnover is very less. So the maturity level has gone up. The age of the institution has gone up. Of course, 45 years old institution with a legacy of various practices. At the same time, average experience of teachers have gone up till 15 years average experience. So the maturity level on y-axis, if you take, and the complexity of the task on the x-axis. So it is going beyond 100. But now there is a realization that we have been brought down to the level of telling mode. So the delegation mode has gone away from the organization. So all the time we got to be either at the telling mode or at the selling mode, or at the participating mode or at the delegating mode. Because earlier, before pandemic, if you look at things were on smooth wheel. So before we could ask for something, things would be there in place. But now the scenario have completely changed. And where all the people who are at the helm of affairs need to go to the grassroots level and work. So in fact, I have a feeling that I've been brought down to level 1, but perhaps the challenge. And there is always a joy in confronting this challenge. And coming to the kind of, the competitive examination and preparing children for competitive examination, our system and our vision, of course, it's joy of learning, where teachers, parents, and children work in an atmosphere full of joy and to take the organization to international standard. So somewhere we honestly feel that when you bring in a kind of integrated course, or of course it is a demand of the parents, but still we're not, in fact, listen to them, or rather we are stuck to our vision. But the demands are going up, that children need to be prepared for competitive examination on one side. At the same time, Sir was talking about the skilling. Skilling is almost important. Sir was talking about art integration in the curriculum, then work instructions, work integration, work. Of course, these are the two basic aspects of NAP 2020 also, because where it says from class 6 upwards, we got to introduce some kind of vocational training for the children, where children should be out of the organization and should work for an industry to learn about the ethical practices that they demonstrate and the collaborative activity that they do, apart from understanding the missions and their calibration and the working conditions. So somewhere honestly, I feel beyond the skilling in terms of IQ, children necessarily should learn the social quotient, emotional quotient, and adversity quotient. And that was actually been dropped because of the pandemic. So now all institutions need to concentrate, especially as educators, we need to concentrate more in bringing up the children, especially in the quotient, interpersonal skills, intrapersonal skill sets, and how to deal with their own emotions. And at the same time, when there is a challenging situation, they should be able to face it, because they learn to face failure. So in fact, my thought would be like the schools need to concentrate more on the areas apart from IQ, because through textbook and through various organizations, there'll be quite a lot of information for them to build their faculties of the brain, to instill or stimulate the faculties of the brain in terms of their intelligence. But these skill sets are very important, because the expectation of the employer would be ethical practices, collaboration, communication, and maybe towards the end, the expectation would be, because they are all willing to train their employees. So the last one would be like critical thinking and problem solving and decision making, because the employer and employability is going to be purely based on ethical practices and perhaps collaboration skills, and of course communication skills. And beyond that, of course, they should also learn their work ethical, the work as such. So IQ, of course, is taken back. Yes.
I have a very, very interesting question. We've all been talking about
please.
Employability.
Yes.
But the whole focus of the government is to make sure that the people are not only just getting ready to be employed, but also to employ people, because they are very, very interested in making sure that the entrepreneurial skills basically gets developed in the students. So how are you, if I talk about your particular school, how are you, making sure that the entrepreneurial skills of a student is getting developed, and what are the steps according to you?
Yes. So if you ask me, for the past 3 years, the kind of work that we have done for these entrepreneurial skill sets, I think we are at level 1, or not even at level 1. But if you ask me, before pandemic, there were quite a lot of opportunities given to the children. We had quite a lot of fest. So in the fest, children been involved in conducting the fest, and they will also sell products prepared by them with the parents. And of course, there is some value attached to it. Like after selling the product, the money made out of it would be given to the orphanage or old age homes. So in fact, we always see that the children, of course, develop the entrepreneurial skills, especially when they are at school level. And we have a system of student council, where they in fact devise an activity and they conduct the fest, and teachers will be there just as a facilitator. And perhaps if you look at a kind of a program for entrepreneurial skills, I think, I would say we're not started yet anything, but it's just been there in them. And all the parents, in fact, support the children to be a part of this kind of a fest. Because finally, if you look at the net result of this, the money made out of this is actually going for being used for the common cause. So that's how we do it. But we are at level 1 or even less than level 1 at these entrepreneurial skills. Okay. Yes, but some of our children, of course, do have it. It's latent, and we got to tap it. And as such, we don't have any exclusive program to tap this resources of theirs, which is latent. Yeah.
Anybody else who would like to talk about entrepreneurial skills, developing them in their schools? I'll come to Shabana ma'am. I know you've been waiting for a very long time before we have you. But anybody who would like to weigh in talking about entrepreneurial skills, or are there any things, either Shweta ma'am or Prakash sir?
Sir, I would like to add some more points. Sir, for entrepreneurial skills or mindset to be developed in students, I think following steps has to be taken. For example, if you have seen, India is actually having the most number of unicorns. Like thing is, we have this Byju's, which has been now a decacon, I think so. It has crossed $20 billion valuation now. So I think for the students, early exposure to the entrepreneurial mindset can be done by exposing them to the most guest lecturers by, for example, those who have done a startup or who have been very successful in starting a startup. So exposing them to the guest lectures and to their models and ideas. And second thing, creating a project-based learning models that will also help. And also, mostly, I graduated from Anna University. So there used to be a kind of a, what do you call it, as project exhibition called as Kurukshetra, in which all the students, based on their learning experience or based on the creativity, they were given some funding from the incubation centers, and they were allowed to, bring their ideas into reality. So, and many delegates from various industries are brought, and those models which actually, capture the wildest imaginations of the employers. Even in the second year, even if the student is in the second year, third year, he was given a job. So we had such opportunities with, Wipro or Amazon or Google. The same thing can be extended to school also. So that is what my, idea is. Thank you, sir.
All right. Thank you. Thank you so much, ma'am. Now coming back to Shabana, ma'am, I know you've been waiting for a very, very long time, joining the first one in the panel. Ma'am, your take on the topic, and then I'll have a question for you as well.
Thank you so much, Sandeep, sir. Thank you, everyone, and the great opportunity given to me, right? As being, we have been here in the school, our school has been there for the recent 5 years, and we are in the outskirts, and how the children will be like, and the parents' mindset will be, right? The exposure regarding like JEE or NEET or any other professional courses, it is very less. And when we talk about also, they have a blind idea about that particularly. Actually, being an educator, we know the openings, the opportunities, which is wide there for the children regarding the skills, basically. That is what the topic is, I guess, right? That's very important. Being a teacher, being a mother, or whoever, being the leader of the school, I prefer that, apart from focusing on, or depends on the children, right? And the interest. But the parents, they are just pressurizing the children without any clear idea or without their knowledge about what the children possess, right? That is what I basically feel about, concentrate about, and worry about the children, because that gives their future career, right? See, when they are being focused, like for any courses, like professional courses, everyone is crazy about, and the children are into, right? So after their graduation or post-graduation or training in what all sorts, when they are into the field and they are into their practice, they feel that most of the children, right? We can have some, we know the, what is that? Many children, we'll come to know about the children, right? So they are not able to survive in their career, right? So that worries me a lot. So we start with like, as Sweta ma'am, after the topic of skill-based things, we want to give the children like, what are all the maximum openings available, right? What are all the courses available when we choose science stream or commerce stream, whatever it is, what you can do, you can have choices, right?
Correct.
That is what children and parents are struggling after maybe class 10 and 12. They don't have any idea about it. So what to be chosen for their career? Will it be quite good for my child? Will my child earn properly, or whether we can stand in his career? This was the question which arises when they come to class 12. But when they think over there, by that time, it will not be sufficient for them to think, right? They will not get any possible ideas. That is what we can focus. We plan in our school, and we are doing in our school, like the availability of the courses. So where the children can feel themselves like, this is for me. So they can have a number of choices. So this is also not bad something, right? So which I'm passionate about. I can do it, right? So this is what I would like to add up on along with your points. Actually, it's really good in hearing so much inputs, what we can implement in our school also, right? Thank you. Thank
you so much, Shabana ma'am. I would now like to welcome Shivakumar sir. Shivakumar Belanji is the principal of Cambridge Public School. Before I go down to you, sir, I have a very, very interesting question to the team of Q&I. Either of you can, answer this question. Now, while we were speaking to Shabana ma'am, there was this question that I had written down. Is the question was, are there any challenges or barriers that hinder the effective preparation of students for the future workforce? Now, listening to Shabana ma'am, I know what are the barriers that are coming in front, and clubbing that question with the socio-economic background of the students. If we come together, so how Q&I is basically addressing these two issues, especially we understand it's a quality and assessment product for STEM, and that is a problem that is faced by the schools that are in the outskirts, where there is a disparity in the social socio-economic background, and how the usage of technology can actually overcome these two barriers. Any one of you who would like to answer?
So one of the reasons, or one of the things that both Shabana ma'am and Shweta ma'am also described about is a lot of times it's just the lack of awareness also that leads to people not choosing a particular career option, a particular skill. And that is where I think one of the solution options that Akash gave, we are also pitching for these conceptual sessions for these schools and for these kids. So besides being the assessment platform that actually figures out your learning gaps and gives you feedback around that, we also provide a platform where the students can come in to get aware about the career options that are offered through medicine or pursuing engineering or medicine fields. We also mentor them on the strategies, exam taking strategies, because coming from rural background, it becomes very challenging for students to understand all that, because they might not have any precedents. They might not be having any elder brother, sister who has been through these colleges and stuff. So we have those experts, and time and again, we have these sessions organized for the partner schools and for the students there. And in regular, we have these conceptual sessions that actually help them. Even if they are not going to a coaching institution, they at least get those 10 hours per week of guidance from our side that will help them achieve the success. And we make it very pinpointed because, as I said, we have a data-driven platform there. So we understand the pain points of that particular child. So we club a set of students with similar problems and cater to them in a session. That helps us solve the problem more efficiently.
Correct. Thank you so much, sir. And I believe that, you know, having a technology partner on board is really, really important for any discussion, for the matter of fact, because as soon as the problem arises, there is a solution that is trying to creep up. Thank you so much for your input. I would now like to welcome Mr. Shivakumar Bellam, sir, who is the principal of Cambridge Public East School. Sir, welcome to the round table. Can we have your mic and camera on, sir, so that we could hear your thoughts on addressing the skill gap, you know, preparing students for the workforce of tomorrow? Mr. Shivakumar, are you here? Okay, I think he'll still join us. In the meanwhile, I have a very, very interesting question for Mr. Prakash, sir. Prakash, sir, you know, we're talking about bridging the skill gap between the students. I just want to ask, are there any successful examples of education programs or initiatives that have effectively prepared students for the workforce of tomorrow? First of all, the first part of the question is this: are there any effective programs that have initiated and have been successful? If you know of any, or if you have implemented some of them, we would love to hear it from you.
I think we need to think about, national education policy, and it's the right time that, yesterday when I was seeing the television, I was seeing a flash news. Dr. Kasturi Rangan is there hospitalized, and he was there now he's there in Bangalore. So keeping him in his mind, because he was the chairman of the steering committee who formed the national education policy. So the chairman himself was there very much particular about skill education. In national education policy, what is mentioned is that skill labs will be constituted in every educational institution. Skill labs will be there formed, and it will be there helping. Just like how in colleges that incubation centers are there. In the same way, in the school education system, in chapter 4, it is there mentioned. Skill labs will be there constituted. And another important thing that the government of India has taken initiative is, government of India will be constituting a national committee for integration of vocational education. Because vocational education is the most important one. If you take just 20 years back, there were ITI, ITC, polytechnic colleges and all. So during those days, it was not that much difficult problem for us to get the skilled labor. So what India is going to face in future is the lack of skilled laborers. So the skills the laborers will be there, but they will not be there having the skills. If you take America, USA, you can find most of the skilled laborers are there from Latin American countries. They are migrating from that country to their country. And recently I read one report, and that report was about, skill education in different countries. So in India, if you take the age group of 19 to 29, if you are taking that group, 95% of the youth, they might have got education, but they might have got only 5% of that entire youth might have got the formal vocational education. That is the condition in India. 5% of the age group of 19 to 29. But if you take the same study, what it says is, in US, it is 52%. 52% of the youth between the age group of 18 to 29, they have already got the vocational skill education, formal vocational education, I'm saying. And again, if you come to Germany, it is 75%. And South Korea, we can find it is 96% of the youth, they might have got formal vocational education. So where our country is the standing, we can easily understand. Do you remember, and technology-wise also, if you take South Korea, when COVID and national education policy came both at the same time. COVID-19 and NEP 2020. So when that came, immediately we were in a hurry to implement national education policy without giving any kind of gap. What the report says is in South Korea, 99% of the houses were already with the internet connections. And the children's, their education was never affected because of that. So these are all showing internationally where our country is standing. And why can't we take some steps regarding the gap, filling the gap between the skill education and the formal education that we are getting. Entrepreneurship, the school education system will be considered. Finland should be there taken as the best example. In Finland, there is entrepreneurship development programs in almost all the schools. Or if you take smaller countries like, if you take even Singapore, South Korea, Taiwan, Indonesia, Malaysia, Thailand, in all these countries, skill-based educations are there given weightage. So what we are lacking behind is skill education. So definitely we need to have an experiential learning. For example, experiential learning, when we are thinking about, there is a very famous quotation. It is not the experience. We do not learn from experience, but we are learning from reflecting on the experience. Experiential learning and skill education can be there always correlated. So if you give utmost importance, I think Q&I, they are giving a lot of importance to experiential learning, if I'm not wrong. So coding and all those things, that is the basic thing that even national education policy is also saying from class 6 onwards, the children should be taught how coding is. This we started only now, but in US it started in 2014 itself. So we are late, but there is a time that we can go in a speedy way to implement skill education system inside the school. If we have skill labs, actually it is one of the best things that government of India has initiated through the implementation of national education policy. As like incubation centers in all the colleges. In all our schools, if we have separate skill labs, and we have in our school, we have entrepreneurship development cell. And tomorrow we are planning to have a program called financial literacy, one program we have planned. Financial literacy is also one of the skill. You cannot teach financial literacy as a subject. It is a skill. And do you remember that when Steve Jobs was there in the deathbed, he was telling to the entire parents, you should not teach your children the praise of a thing, but you should teach the children the value of it. So how the children can give value to the praise, to the money, that can easily be taught in the school system, but it should not be taught as in the form of a subject, but it should be taught as in the form of way of life. In that case, definitely we can make a skilled laborers in future course of time. Because the skilled laborers will be the most highly paid people in future. If you go to a hotel, you can find that the manager of the hotel will be getting the less pay. But the chief cook of that hotel will be getting more pay. If you go to a tire building company, you can see the tire builder will be getting better pay than the personal manager of the company. So there comes the importance of skilled labor. This is my view. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, sir. The first part of the question was aptly answered, and I too totally believe that having all of these programs. But moving on, we also have with us Mr. Sivakumar, sir, now joining in, who's the principal of Cambridge Public School. Sir, I'm sure you would have gone through the topic. We're talking about addressing the skill gap, preparing students for the workforce of tomorrow. What is your take on it? And I have a second part question where, Prakash sir had just spoken about, the successful initiative that the program has taken. Now, I also want to know about what are the, key factors contributing to the success of these programs, or what, according to you, would be, the key factors would be implementing towards, bridging this gap. Your take on the topic, sir.
I think, just good evening to all of you first, and I'm sorry that, the first part of it I missed out. I think before me, the people had spoken so very well. In fact, Mr. Prakash, and like I heard the other lady also speak, the two principals also speak, like they spoke very well. I'm really very happy about that. And the Q&I and all that they were talking about, like the right time, I think this also fell into my desk, the conversation. I don't know whether I'm answering your question, but I should be telling you that, like financial literacy, we have started already 2 years ago in our school. And, like we have agriculture entrepreneurship, in fact, in our school. In fact, like this is one of the thing that we have started. And now we have a collaboration with the IIT Madras. And, like to build the skills, like to build in the skills of the students, and, like to add in to all the skills that they're going to learn in school. We have a program which we have signed an MOU with the IIT Madras. This is for the rural schools, and like it has we kickstarted it in the month of June, and like formally we inaugurated it the day before. In fact, it's going out very well. I think like I would like to quote what Prakash sir had said. Like in initiating skill education in India is very, very important. And like I don't know whether we should again be going back telling that like the assessment scheme, and like should we have to assist the students with the skills that is to be there, and what are the criteria that we should be assessing them and all that. So I don't know whether I'm answering your question, but this I wanted to tell you. In fact, I'm sorry that like I was not able to take it from the beginning.
No problem, sir. Anybody from Q&I's team who would like to answer what, according to you, is are the key features that that will help bridge the skill gap for a student when he is ready for a skill, to first go in the higher education and then move towards the industry for a job.
Yeah, definitely. We have been talking, about a lot of issues regarding how to impart skill education to the students in form of courses, in form of vocational training, in form of developing entrepreneurial mindset in the students. But at the same time, we must also talk about like a formal education is definitely important, but the development of the student in such a way that he is receptive to this education, and then implementing the education in the lifestyles that the student is having, or graduating to be a citizen, which basically uses the skills and the education they have acquired over their entire learning journey, and then use it to the best of their capabilities. So the point here I am trying to make is that we need to nurture the students in such a way that they're receptive to the education that they are been given. And similarly, they are using that education not just to improve the way they think, their lifestyle, their aspirations, but on a larger scale also help the entire nation grow. We have talked about us as a country not being at the very top of providing skill education to the students, but definitely we should also try to address this. Now, coming to the entrepreneurial mindset, there are a lot of initiatives that are being taken by the government, by the schools, by the colleges to basically add these as a sort of teaching, and in their teaching and in their curriculum, right? But at the same time, what are the absolute essential skills through which these mindsets can be developed is to instill a skill of opportunity recognition in the minds of students, that whether they are able to identify opportunities from everything that is available right there in their front, then whether they are having this creativity and innovation being nurtured in their childhood and in their college life as well. The art of risk taking and resilience which the students learn not just through a formal education, but also through all the, in fact, on a day-to-day life, even like me, for example. What are the skills that I gained in my entire, education career? Me being through schools, then, competing for competitive examinations, then ultimately going to college. So if I want to summarize that, what are the skills that I, acquired with each of these steps? Schools, definitely we acquire a lot of skills in terms of how we communicate and, how we try to perceive things, and a lot of positive things. But in the competitive examination preparation journey that I had, a lot of different things that I actually gained in form of skill was to handle pressure. As in, obviously, there is a lot of pressure, not just the academic one, but also the performance pressure that is, that usually is there. So while going through my, phase of preparation, I understood that how to handle pressure, how to actively manage my time in such a way that I'll be able to not just devote my entire focus on the education, but at the same time, I'll also try to squeeze in some time for mental relaxation. When I did not, get good marks in my tests. So from that, I learned the skill of, not giving up, to recollect myself, and then going again for the next test and preparing myself in a better way to appear for the next test. So I'm just highlighting few of these glimpses, as in the entire learning journey or the entire education journey, other than the formal education that is imparted to the students. During the learning journey itself, there are a lot of small skills that students do acquire, and nurturing those skills to actually use them in their professional careers also is going to help them a lot. So we should also focus on these aspects as well.
Right, very well said. Shivakumar sir, are you there? I have one last question before we move towards the closure of the session.
Yes.
Sir, since you mentioned the collaboration between you and IIT Madras, one of the major factors that we earlier discussed also, that almost 50% of careers are being offered by STEM. And I'm sure a wonderful school like yours would be doing a lot of initiatives for nurturing that particular talent. So if I want to know, what are your practices, if you would like to share, to nurturing the STEM talent of the school, and what is it that you're doing differently from any other school?
Most of the initiatives that we have done is learning by doing. In fact, there is a lab. Like we take them to the lab first. We dismantle a lot of things. There are certain very simple machineries that we have put into in the laboratory. They dismantle it. They learn the mechanism of that, and then they put it back again. And then we encourage them to do the similar kind of mechanics. In fact. Similar kind of machines or mechanisms that they could do through that. One thing is that. Second thing is that, we are very open to learning along with art. In fact, most of the time, we put them in a group. One would be very good in doing the art forms. One would be very good in designing things. One would be very good in putting his ideas together. So we club them together and we create an environment where we see to it that, the children do it by themselves, and the facilitator is there only to encourage them and tweak them wherever it is required. That's it.
Right.
And most of the experiments that we do, I don't want to explain the whole lot of it. Most of the experiments that they do is only done by the children. Explanation, presentation on the presentation which they are doing on the PPT, everything is done by the children. And we see to it, the facilitator who is there is a technical person, and he helps the children, he facilitates the children. That's it.
All right. Thank you. Thank you so much for that input. Now since we are at the very last leg of our amazing roundtable, I do a very quick thing that we usually do with our other roundtables as well, and that is a quick 30-second questionnaire that I'll share with you, and you have to just within the 30 seconds you need to answer the question that I'm going to ask. Although it will be an added advantage to the person answering the second, because this will be the same question. Now I'll ask, we have all been talking about various gaps, various problems that we have discussed, how Q&I has plugged in and made sure that the focus is coming back to the individuals in a group setting as well. As educators, Shweta ma'am, Prakash sir, Savana ma'am, and Sivakumar sir and Senthil sir, the question is, give me 5 things according to you that will address the skill gap. Just 5 things in 30 seconds. Anybody who would like to start?
Okay, fine. I think I'll be able to speak about that. I really appreciate Mr. Sivakumar's expansion of STEM, science, technology, engineering, mathematics. As you asked this question 5, I can tell I am adding one more also, STEAM, science, technology, engineering, and arts. Arts is there at it. So these 5 things, if you are there doing in the school, science, technology, engineering, arts, mathematics, in a wonderful way, that too adding with experiential learning, definitely we will be there able to achieve, and we can fill the gap between the skill and the formal education which we are getting. Thank you.
Right. Anybody else who would like to add the top 5 things that they could do in a school to make sure that the students is future ready?
Perhaps I would always say that empowerment of the teacher, skilling of teacher is all the more important. Then at the same time, more integration of ICT in the curriculum. And in fact, ICT alongside the gamification. Gamification, of course, not using the technology, but dissecting the content and concepts into various games so that children will be able to learn much better. And perhaps the social quotient, emotional quotient, and adversity quotient, definitely there should be a program in the organization, because always, when they come out of the schooling, the portals of schooling, they should walk with a lot of confidence to face their life.
Shweta ma'am, your take, 5 things that you would do to make sure that your students are future ready.
So first thing in the beginning, when it comes to the curriculum designing, you may have psychologist, you may have child psychiatrist, you may have
ma'am, 30 seconds,
yes,
maximum
yeah,
45 seconds.
Yeah, okay, textbook, but always have labor labor supply chain analyst or industrialist on the board of textbook monitoring committee, so that the curriculum is always job oriented and skills based. And second thing, always encourage more practical rather than theory. So mostly when you encourage more practical oriented and hands-on experiential learning, mostly teacher become a facilitator rather than rote learner itself. That's it.
Very well. Savana ma'am, 5 things that you would do to make sure that your students are future ready. And you're coming from a very rural background. We understand that.
Yeah, that's what I will make the children understand the realistic, right? What helps them in the future. That's we are focusing on. I'm very much keen towards that, along with values. So I'm seeing that values are missing in many of the children. Like even parents are not enforcing on that. So I basically believe that that will help in getting into the education far better than anything else.
Thank you. Thank you so much, sir. Sivakumar sir, according to you, 5 things that you would do differently or that you are doing differently, that is making sure that your students are bridging that skill gap.
Along with the STEM education, as I told you, that we have already begun, yoga, meditation, and art of living are part and parcel of our school daily curriculum. In fact, now this is for the inner personality, along with whatever that we are learning in the STEM curriculum. STEM and the STEAM curriculum that I'm talking about, because we are already there in the STEAM. So this yoga and meditation and the personality of a particular person, like to build in the personality of the particular person with values is very important.
Thank you so much, sir. Now I'll have to ask Akashji and Anuragji before we wind up the session. Coming in from an industry perspective, from an edtech perspective, from a person who's trying to help the students, what according to you, since Anuragji, Akashji, since you're the academic head, what according to you are the 5 things academically that the students should do right to bridge the skill gap?
So I have already talked about this in my conversation ahead also.
Yes.
The main important thing that the student must do is to learn the art of investing themselves in the work that they are doing. And once they start using this, investing themselves, taking control of the learning process, be accountable to their own success and progress. If the student could learn these skills, then definitely there is no way they won't be a very good, very successful individual in the future.
Anuragji, your take, 5 things that a student should do to overcome or to bridge the gap between their
I get that. So we have had views from eminent educators, and I think they have very beautifully listed out all the things that are necessary from the students. And from my end, since I build a product, I would say that to have a very, very efficient skill-based learning, I think adoption of technology is the way to go about it, because time is a premium. Like Sir had also talked about many countries being ahead of India at this point in time. So we are running a race and technology is going to come to aid. It has to be an enabler.
Very well said, sir. In fact, that was the exact point that I was looking for, that implementation of technology will make sure that the skill gap is bridged between the students and make sure that they are future ready, because without technology, there is no other way that, the students could adopt to such a dynamic changing world. Thank you so much to all the wonderful educators. Thank you so much, Akashji and Anuragji, for joining in for such an amazing session. Thank you so much to all the audience who have been patiently watching us and hearing to us on this amazing topic of addressing the skill gap, but preparing the students for a workforce of tomorrow. Until next time, where we'll be bringing up the 3rd episode of the Q&I TalkEd series. Stay tuned. This is your host, Sandeep Gulati, signing off. Thank you. Have a wonderful day ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Sandeep. Thank you. Have a nice day.
Thank you.
Thank you and all the best.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.